Okay, I've had a lot of people absent, so they've asked me to review old topics. So I'm going to start with, this one's going to be completing the square, quadratic formula, and discriminant. So if you know those really well, skip this video. So this is really just for someone that's missed a lot. So completing the square. We got to have a 1x squared to complete the square. So the first thing you have to do is divide everything by a. Ax squared plus bx plus c. So it'd be x squared plus 8x. Oh, sorry, I messed up. A divided by 2 is 4. Excuse me. Plus, this would be 5. Now, I want to get the x's by themselves, so I'm going to subtract the 5. Now, here's how you find the magic number. The magic number is what number you put here, so this factors into a square. So half of 4 is 2. 2 squared is 4. So it's always half of this number squared, but I have to add it to both sides. Now, when I factor, I get x plus 2, which is x plus 2 squared. Simplify. Now, whenever you have a square equals a number, you can always solve it by square rooting both sides. So this would be x plus 2 equals plus or minus I. So x equals negative 2 plus or minus I. So the idea is whenever you have a square equals a number, you can solve it. So this one, I'm going to divide both sides by 5. So I'd have x squared plus 8x equals 1. Now the magic number is half of 8, which is 4, and then square it. And the only way you can do it is if you add it to both sides. Now when you factor this, you will get x plus 4 times x plus 4, which is x plus 4 squared. Then square root both sides, you get x plus 4. Now don't forget, whenever you square root a variable term and a number, it's plus or minus whatever the square root is. Then I'm going to subtract 4. So it's x equals negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 17. So it's all based on this. If you have a square equals a number, you can always solve it. If it's just, now if it's 25x, no. But if it's just 25, so x equals plus or minus 5. Now, quadratic formula. Quadratic formula is just a formula. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So this is a, this is b, this is c. So it'd be negative 6 plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times 1 times 1 all over 2a. A is 1, so it'd be 2. So negative 6 plus or minus square root of 32 all over 2. Now 32 is 16 times 2. The square root of 16 is 4, so you get negative 6 plus or minus 4 square root of 2 all over 2. So reduce both by 2, so it'd be negative 3 plus or minus 2 square root of 2. So this one, we're just going to plug and chug. A is 2, B is, can't see, negative 3, C is 5. So it's 3 because it's the opposite of B, plus or minus the square root of B squared, minus 4AC. 8 times 5 is 40, all over 2A. So 2 times 2 would be 4. So 3 plus or minus, this is negative 31. Square root of negative, pop the I out, all over 4. Now your discriminant. Discriminant tells you what type of answers you're going to have. Not what the answers are, just what type. Imaginary, real, what is it? So, what part of the quadratic formula tells you that? Well, underneath the square root. And underneath the square root is just b squared minus 4ac. So in this case, 36b squared minus 4 times 1 times 2 is 8. So the discriminant would be 28. Now, since it's positive, that means it's 2 real roots. Now let's find the discriminant again. Let's see, b squared, so it's 4 minus 4 times 3 is 12, times 2 is 24, so it's negative 20. So that means it's going to be, well, it's conjugate pair, meaning there's two of them, one's plus, one's minus, of imaginary roots. But for the test, this one test, not on the final, but this one test, if you put two imaginary roots, I will take it, just because we're trying to get you caught up. But technically, it should be a conjugate pair of imaginary roots. But for this one test, I take two imaginary roots, because the square root of a negative is I, and b squared minus 4ac is underneath the square root. So let's find the discriminant. B squared, that'd be 16, minus 4ac. 4 times 1 times 4 is 16. Oh, and that means 0 means the square root drops out. So negative b plus or minus the square root of 0. This drops out. So you just have negative b over 2a. That's a fraction. So it's a double rational root. Those are the three categories. So if it's just a fraction, that's why it's rational. And double means the same thing occurs twice, because it's just negative 5 over 2a. So that would be like if I had x plus 1 times x plus 1 equals 0. So then x equals negative 1 or x equals negative 1. Oh, it's a double root. Same answer twice. So two real roots if it's just positive. If it's negative, it's conjugate pair of imaginary roots. But if you just put two imaginary roots, I'll take it for this test. And double rational root is when it's 0. So if it's positive, two real roots. Now this is not the answer. We did not solve for the problem. We just said what type of answers are we going to have. So anyways, if this isn't enough for you, you can take the test Tuesday, because I did that pretty quick. Well, I'll see ya. Have fun.